some of the worst Alexei Navalny takes. Now, there's a lot of bad Alexei Navalny takes, and I don't want to spend too much time like translating stuff, so I'm just going to concentrate on bad American takes on Alexei Navalny's death. And we're going to start with David Sachs, who said, "Why would Putin kill Navalny?" By the way, this is somebody that Elon Musk listens to for foreign affairs advice. "Why would Putin kill Navalny? He already had him under lock and key. Navalny had little support in Russia, no threat whatsoever. Of course, the same was true about Gonzalo Lira, and the Zelensky government murdered him anyway. So who knows?" So I before we even read the rest of this, if we are going to read the rest of this, I want to throw a few things out there. First things first, he says he completely doubts the idea that Putin killed Navalny, even though it seems that the current Russian narrative about it is he just died of like spontaneous death. It's like, oh my gosh, this is, oh, why would he do it? Why would he do it? But when it comes to the idea of the Ukrainian government murdering Gonzalo Lira, like, he immediately accepts it with no questions asked. Gonzalo Lira died in there, no questions. Now, to be clear, Gonzalo Lira, if we're going to do the whole Gonzalo Lira thing, Gonzalo Lira went into Ukraine like a day before the invasion, started covering it from a pro-Russian perspective, regurgitating RT talking points, going on RT, like denying Bucha, then blaming it on the Ukrainians, cheering on the Russian army's unstoppable and brilliant invasion. He was then warned to stop it. He didn't listen and he continued. And then that's when his house was raided and he was arrested. He was then released on bail. And after he was released on bail, he then tried to flee the country, live tweeting it the whole time, into Hungary to claim political asylum. And of course, since he was live tweeting and making a big fuss about it, he was easily caught, then put in prison. Then while in prison, he then wrote about catching pneumonia, and then he died. Now, to be clear, we don't know the exact circumstances of his death, but I am not going to say confidently. I'm not.
Hey, Dylan, what's your favorite loli? Pop flavor?
Stop. Thank you for the $5. But I cannot say confidently that this chain-smoking, obese, proudly unvaccinated, because he was bragging about his unvaccinated sperm, 50-something-year-old couldn't have actually just caught pneumonia and died. I don't know. But I hope that he did not get maltreated in prison. He told a lot of tall tales about being tortured. He said he was stuck in the eyes with pins. He didn't have any evidence for it. He said that, though, and he says a lot of things and lied about a lot of things. So it's hard for me to know. So all I can say, it's a question mark. I wouldn't be against an investigation. I don't know. But he is confident that Gonzalo Lira was murdered. But Putin killing Navalny, this political opponent that was already poisoned before being arrested by Putin's government, the same government that poisoned him once he came back to Russia, I don't know. Who could have killed him? I don't know. Spontaneous death, I presume. It just shows a different standard. It shows like a reflective, kind of a reflexive, just like anti-establishment. Oh, the establishment is mourning Navalny, so maybe Navalny wasn't killed by the Russians. It just seems, ugh. Next, let's move on to the next one. Now, this college Republicans chapter, the UCLA College Republicans chapter, oh my God, these guys have some of the wildest tweets out there. You want some weird, like 18 to 23-year-old Republican angst? It is at this channel. It is at this Twitter account. Listen to this. Alexei Navalny died from COVID vax, and the fact that nobody wants to admit it is shameful. Why would you blame Putin for something Navalny did to himself by taking the experimental shot? So the Russians say sudden death syndrome, and not only do they accept that at face value, the most suspicious, like, yes, he died of sudden death, but they then make the jump to say that it was Dr. Fauci. It was the Fauci-ouchie that did it. Dog, this is your college Republicans chapter, man. This is your college Republicans. This is Lincoln's party. This is the Lincoln youth. This is from the Aussie Cossack. He's also backing up this guy. This guy is pretty crazy because this guy assaulted like an elderly man at like a pro-Ukraine event and pushed him to the ground, and he like hit his head, and he's been hiding in the Russian embassy ever since because he's being charged with assaulting an elderly man. And so he's tweeting very proudly, very boldly from within Russian captivity that it was Pfizer. Guys, it wasn't Putin that killed him. It wasn't Kirill that assassinated him, or Shoigu, or Gerasimov. It was Pfizer that assassinated Alexei Navalny. God, it gets worse. It gets worse. We're back to the UCLA Republicans chapter, the college Republicans chapter. Look at this. Alexei Navalny has been a radical extremist homosexual activist for over a decade. Maybe Putin did Russia a favor. To be clear, Alexei Navalny is not a homosexual activist. Alexei Navalny is unbelievably tame on LGBT issues. He doesn't want like gay marriage or anything like that. He just literally is against their immediate repression. And he says he would allow them to have free speech if elected. Something that as a constitutional American, if you support the Constitution, should be something you're not against either. But since they're gay, crush, 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 crush. Totally normal people. These are like the type of Republicans that if the Russians ended up like occupying Nevada, they would be like the first ones in the line to collaborate. My goodness. He's a radical extremist homosexual activist. But don't worry, we always save the worst for last. Donald J. Trump was on his great platform, Truth Social, and he put out a tweet, a truth, I guess you call it a truth, about Alexei Navalny, and he somehow found a way to make it about himself. The sudden death of Alexei Navalny has made me more and more aware of what is happening in our country. It is a slow, steady progression with crooked, radical left politicians, prosecutors, and judges leading us down a path to destruction. Open borders, rigged elections, and grossly unfair courtroom decisions are destroying America. We are a nation in decline, a failing nation. MAGA 2024. So the immediate America's going to collapse, open border, we're failing, we're declining, we're being destroyed. Apparently, that low unemployment rate, which he touted during his presidency, which is now, I think, our sub 4% unemployment rate, has sustained itself for 24 months, the longest period, going into 25 months, the longest period since, I think, the 1960s. We have a GDP growth rate that's pretty good. We have, I think, real wage growth, and we're declining. Look, we have issues in the United States. We have real economic issues, high amount of, for example, debt on Americans, healthcare debt especially. We have real issues, but we're a declining nation. We're destroying America. We're all failing. We're all dying. This post was supposed to be about Alexei Navalny. But look how quick it becomes about something else. The sudden death of Alexei Navalny, okay, we're talking about Alexei Navalny, has made me more aware of what's happening in our country. Now we're talking about America. It is a slow, steady, and then boom, Alexei Navalny gone. He didn't even really attempt to make it like a segue or to try to like transition it from Alexei Navalny to the United States smoothly. He's just like, Alexei Navalny, America. And then he just, boom, just jumps right over. Doesn't even try to make it look convincing, like it was a natural progression from talking about this guy that was done in by the Russian state over to talking about himself. God, man. There's not many that can top Trump's ego. There is not many indeed. Oh, I just wanted to quickly, I don't want to make a long segment of this, but Elon Musk has been going down and down and down and further down the rabbit hole, and it's not good. Did you see this from Elon Musk? Almost every illegal is a Dem voter. Therefore, the Dem party will not take action until they lose more votes due to ushering in vast numbers of illegals than they gain. They are counting on complacency from Dem and independent voters, which, at least so far, has worked. Simple matter of incentives. Undocumented people cannot vote in elections. They can't. There are some localities that have talked about making it legal for undocumented people to vote in mayoral elections. But dude, there is they can't vote in congressional races. They can't vote in Senate races. They can't vote in presidential races. They can't. They cannot vote in federal elections. The most they can do is in some small towns and cities, they can vote in local elections. And even in those areas, it's being challenged and stops, and the courts are talking about it. So the idea that almost every illegal is a dumb voter, no illegals are dumb voters unless they're committing identity theft. And I'm telling you, the majority of them are not committing identity theft to vote. Most of them are, if the ones that are committing like identity theft, or for example, have like a fake social security card, they're doing it so they can work. They're doing it so they can live. Very few, if any, are doing it so they can vote. Do we have any evidence of that even? This isn't like the Texas Senate race for fucking LBJ anymore. Election security has improved. This is just completely delusional. Like, this is just a lie. Where did he get this idea that these people cross the border, that all of these like undocumented Chinese immigrants are crossing the border, and then they're all just going to vote Biden? Wild. This is the most crazy response to Navalny's death. I think this is from Tommy Robinson. Oh God, I remember this guy, the British dude. I think the CIA killed Navalny. Scream at me all you want. Putin is winning in Ukraine. He comes across as reasonable. Tucker Carlson. The timing for Navalny's death doesn't make sense. I don't know how you watch that. You watch him ramble for 44 minutes on how Ukraine's actually Russia because of Yaroslav the Wise, and you come around away from that thinking he's reasonable. Or him like justifying Hitler's invasion of Poland, or any of the crazy stuff he talked, the Nazi stuff, he's staying by that nonsense. If you watch that and you think he's convincing, then I think that you're just a revanchist as well. That, man, it would not take a lot for you to argue to Tommy Robinson that the British need to go back and take over Ireland. I mean, the same logic would apply to the logic that the Russians are using to invade Ukraine now. But God, the CIA killed him? How? How is that even possible? He's in the most remote Siberian prison. What's the motivation for the CIA to kill Navalny? How do they kill Navalny? He's under constant watch, constant lock and key. Hell, not even the Russians are accusing the CIA of killing Navalny. They're saying it's sudden death syndrome. Why would the Russians not bring it up if the CIA did it? If they could prove it, it'd be an absolute propaganda victory, propaganda dunk. This just seems like reflexive anti-Americanism and like reflexive conspiratorial thinking. That's what it feels like to me. Oh, Tommy Robinson. If you viewed Tucker Carlson's performance in that interview as reasonable, when he's like going around to like Russian shopping carts and like, oh my God, modern technology. Whoa, I pay less here than I do in America for food. And we're supposed to look at that and say that's reasonable? Get out of here. Get out of here. And when he says Putin winning in Ukraine, like, what is that? What does that even, like, winning in what way? They've taken Avdiivka, like they're going to march on Kiev? I don't even know what that means. And lastly, the whole point of Putin's crackdown, or at least a big motivator for it, is to destroy the alternative. For Russians and for anyone, it's hard to imagine a society without the government you've known for your whole life. If it's the government you know for your whole life and you have no alternative, you have no alternative. If I was to say who takes Putin's place once he's gone, no one would have any idea. And that's the way it's supposed to work. And Putin snuffing out the opposition before they can become a problem isn't new. And we have good reason to believe that he's poisoned Navalny before. What has happened between when he first poisoned Navalny and now that would substantially change his opinion on killing the guy? God, Tommy Robinson, not the sharpest tool in the shed.